The draft is tonight. The Packers are hosting. Couldn't be any more excited. We will talk all about round one, and we will make some predictions today on Sounds Gouda.
Yeah, I've been wanting this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving on to the better. Okay. Hey. Yeah. Ain't no errors, baby. It's a new era. I wake up early, feeling rich like I'm Kesha.
All right, everybody, welcome back into another episode. My name is Jordan Olson, and my co-host and best friend over here is Rob Ralph. And thank you to our new and returning listeners, and we are super excited to be, debuting this show today. The NFL Draft is tonight. It's in Green Bay. This has been over a year in the making. We are just ecstatic, and if you don't know. But if you know, you know. But we have new episodes every Wednesday and Saturday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So if you enjoy this content, hopefully you come back and keep checking us out and interact with us on those platforms. Want to give us a couple announcements, and then we'll talk NFL Draft Round 1.
Yeah, so Sounds Gouda Draft meetup will take place at Stadium View, a sports bar, 1 p.m. Central Time. They do not take reservations, so if you see a devilishly handsome, lost person sitting by himself at a table, that man would be Jordan Olson. So he will grab a table and would I don't know, Jordan, are you going to have a sign or anything, or are you just going to try and flag people down, or what's your plan?
I'm going to try to wear a Sounds Gouda hat, and I guess I might try to post like a picture of like, hey, this is me. So if you want to keep up with our socials, primarily X, you can DM me too, but come and try to find me. Hopefully, if you've been watching the show, you'll recognize me. You just approach me because, obviously I can't see all of you, so I won't be able to know that you're there to talk to me or Rob or whoever else is there about the draft. And I don't know, I hope to grab a table. I don't know what to expect this weekend at the draft, how busy places will be. I expect it to be busy. Hopefully I can grab a table. If not, we'll find a corner to stand in and we'll talk Packers ball.
Yeah, so going to recap night one of the draft, talk hopes and dreams of day 2 and day 3. And if you are living underneath the rock or if you're new, we do have a Sounds Gouda Draft guide that just came out yesterday, YouTube and on our X account. So, very, very excited about that. We put a lot of hard work, energy, effort, and sleepless nights into that. That does include our tier rankings, top 75 players for the Packers, a recap too of all our mock drafts and more. Obviously this is year 1 for us, so we're just super excited to be able to do this and even, evolve it and get better as time goes on as well. So check this out. It's a free resource to our YouTube family and community. We hope it makes your draft experience extremely enjoyable and gives you a little bit more data and insight into what the Packers are looking for.
That's amazing introduction to that tool, Rob. Don't get overly excited. We are still, we have day jobs and stuff too. So, it's not going to be the most, comprehensive draft guide you've ever seen. If you purchase some of the other options, there's probably more in-depth information in some of those things, but we're pretty proud of it for the time that we had. It's like, 16, 20 pages long. As we record this, I'm putting the final touches on it. So I don't know how many pages that is exactly, but hopefully you enjoy it for what it is and understand, this isn't our full-time jobs and it's more of a hobby right now. So, don't be too critical of what you see. Hopefully you just enjoy it and like it for what it is. But let's talk the NFL Draft, which we're recording this a few days beforehand. But as you listen to this, the Packers are going to make a selection tonight. So,
let's
Rob,
go.
Just real quick, I talked about being at the draft. You're still a little bit TBD, but, you're probably not going to be there Thursday night. So what are you going to be doing? What's your plan to watch the draft and the first round? And how do you plan to enjoy that selection or, be prepared for something that you're not expected for? How do you plan to cope with that? What are your draft night 1 plans?
Yeah. Well, it all depends. Obviously, I have a family. I have 3 children, two older girls and 1 boy, so 9, 6, and 3 years old, and that takes up 99% of my time, quite a bit though as well. I do have off from work, so that's much needed. And we do have some other type of gardening and CSA type of stuff that we're getting prepped and planned for here too, for some of my wife's entrepreneurial business stuff. If I can't get it live, which I'm definitely going to try for because I believe it starts at 7 p.m., I'm definitely going to record it. I'm going to turn off all notifications on my phone. Not that I would get any here down in the valley. We live
Hmm.
here on a farm in southwest Wisconsin. So then I'll be able to freak out and enjoy it when the kids go to bed. And I'm able to get up and kind of tee it up for myself live. So, I mean, for I'll be looking really at our Packers thresholds and guides too, right? Like,
Hmm.
if they ended up taking a player that we, either we really love or was in our green tier or maybe even possibly our gold tier with a lot of upside, and we'll be totally happy with that. I will be having some question marks too if they take somebody that's not at our green or gold tier, or if it's just, or if they end up taking a wide receiver. I'm going to be like, well, nobody saw that coming, right? So as well, so we put a lot of effort and energy into that too as well. So I'm hoping that they'll pick somebody from our green tier, and if they don't, then I think I might have some question marks. So that's a long-winded way of saying that. So
Yeah, except for Shamar Stewart, I guess I'd be okay if they pick him. But
yeah.
I'm kind of hoping that he, even though he's a green tier, he checks all the Packers boxes except for productivity. Really, I don't know. I'm not in the mood for another project right now. But Goody is usually planning ahead, so I'll be at the draft with my family, my dad, my uncle Tim, some of my uncle's friends, my brother-in-law Jacob, you one of my brothers, Jared, just had a kid, so he's kind of up in the air. Some congratulations to my brother. That just happened on Thursday. I'm a little girl named Riley, so
Congrats, Jared.
congratulations to their family. With all that going on, he might try to come over and visit the draft a little bit, but really excited to spend that in-person time with my family and some close friends, and check out all of the draft festivities. No idea what to expect. If we'll be able to get in and get a good view of what's going on, but really excited for the atmosphere, to take that in, to experience the draft in person for the first time. And who knows if where it goes, if I'll ever go in person again. But really excited. And when we get to our recap tomorrow of night one, tomorrow as you listen to this, I'll be able to tell you a little bit of what it was like and some of those impressions of standing there in person if you weren't in that crowd along with us. So let's talk a little Packers strategy, players, things they might do. But as it stands right now, Rob, what do you think the Packers are going to do tonight in the draft? Are they going to trade up, trade back, or are they going to stay and pick it at 23? Do you have any gut feelings or hopeful wishes for them?
It is hard to predict, but if I feel like they have an optimal way of going about it, depending on how the board falls, right? I think it's best for them to trade back and get some more value, in your third, fourth, fifth, whatever rounds. But that being said, too, I guess for myself, I'm always a fan of trading back and getting some more value, right? We do a lot of in-depth data and insight to a lot of these prospects. So I'm more of getting some more of these good green tier draft players on our list than not. I will be surprised if
Mm-hmm.
they trade up. I won't be surprised if they stick and pick. They've done that,
Mm-hmm.
pretty consistently. And if there's somebody there that they just think is going to fall to them based on how their board goes, I would absolutely love that. So, but
Mm-hmm.
my opt for them would be to, depending on how the board falls, so caveat, trade back and get some more value.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I think that would be my hope. As I selfishly don't want to see him trade out of the first round. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. It'd be great to trade back to pick, 27, 28, 29, and pick up an extra third round pick. So, we can have a ninth draft selection, and still get a great player. But I don't know. My gut just tells me that they'll stay and they'll
Stick and
pick
pick. Yeah.
one of their players that fall to them at pick 23.
Yeah.
But we'll see. This has been talked about on every other show, right? But it all depends on what's happening, right? If at pick 18 comes, 19 comes, and they have like seven guys that they left that they love, and first round or near first round grades, maybe they would trade back at that point in time. When they get to pick 23 even, or 22, and they still got four guys on their board, and somebody's willing to call and offer them a trade back for like three or four picks. I mean, anything's on the table. My gut says they're going to stay and pick it at 23, but would love the trade back. So we've identified basically 11 players that we think would be best fits or great selections or likely selections for the Packers in the first round, wherever they select, trade up, trade down, stay put. But we're going to share those 11 players with you and give you a little insight of what we think that might mean for the team. And then after that, we're going to give you our final prediction of who we think the Packers will select. So want to give us a couple players on that board, Rob?
Yeah, so first up, one of the players we're going to talk about, Brian Branch-esque, got a lot of versatility to him, but Jahdae Barron out of Texas, the cornerback. I do think he'll go in the top 15. I guess I'd be a little surprised if he didn't. If we did not take Javon Bullard last year, and I really do believe that he's this year's Javon Bullard.
Mm-hmm.
I would love this. He would be one of my top picks, probably, most likely, just for the versatility of what he can do. I think it's very redundant with what we have, and I'd have question marks of what you're going to do with all the kind of inside. I know Jeff Hafley he doesn't like inside versus outside. He likes to have it, both and a lot of positional versatility, so where you can play all over the board. But that being said, sometimes you just have a numbers game too, and other talent and different people are other players on your team that you're trying to get in there and get some more experience. So seems a little redundant. Seems like he'll be picked in the top 15. He does have some outside experience. I wouldn't necessarily call him an outside corner. He has played it and has shown to be decent doing that. So there is that kind of caveat, but I just don't see the Packers taking Jahdae Barron, or nor will he be in the range for them to take, because he'll go in the top.
Agree with everything you said, so I won't, litigate on that any longer. But Tech McMillan, I think there's been a lot of smoke with Tech McMillan lately. Obviously, the Packers have been connected to him in a number of ways, whether it's Goody being the only GM at his pro day or now having him for a top 30. He's another player that I doubt will be there at pick 23. I'm not even sure he'll be there at, 16, 17, 18. So probably have to trade up to get him. I don't know the Packers are going to trade up to take a first round wide receiver, but if they did get him, he'd be a great true backside X receiver for them, somebody that can make an immediate impact on day one, and obviously be a great succession plan for the potential departure of Romeo Doubs or Christian Watson or both going into next season. So would be thrilled if we ended up with Tech McMillan. Wouldn't have any other feelings other than excited for that selection, however we got him. So.
Agreed, very much. Next up, Mikael Williams out of Georgia, an edge, and this one has a preference and bolded, for us as a really, really good Packers fit. If I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, and Jordan, we think pretty similarly. They really want to give Alvian all the room to be able to make this third year his year to jump.
Mm-hmm.
That was the year that Rashawn Gary jumped, was really in his third year, and they're really hoping that Alvian's going to take that next step. And especially with DeMarcus Covington coming in too, to be able to teach some better technique and give him some more pass rush tools. So I do love Mikael Williams. His 2023 tape was obviously a lot better than last year's tape. What I really love about him is his run defense. He's very speedy too, and he's got some bend to him and can get around the edge. Last year's tape wasn't quite as good. I think he did get injured, if I'm not mistaken.
He was injured, and if you look at the tape before he was injured and after he was injured in 2023, I mean, you can see the production there. So hopefully project 2023 into the future if that's what you're looking to do. So
yeah, absolutely. I don't think that they'll end up taking him. I guess I was surprised, but I guess you never know. Just for me, for what I'm thinking, they really want to give Elvian the tools. You have Kingsley and Egbare, even Aaron Mosby, who showed up and showed out more than a few times last year as well. So I guess in the first round, I would be surprised if they end up taking an edge there.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily, because he's a premium position, but we'll see. Shamar Stewart, we kind of talked about this a little bit already, but I think he's everything the Packers look for physically in a prospect. I think Goody is going to be infatuated with the idea of Shamar Stewart. He's on this list because I would not be surprised at all if they selected Shamar Stewart. He's another edge prospect from Texas A&M. Super toolsy. He kind of cheated his RAS a little bit because he didn't do all of the testing. So even though he's a 10 on that that rating, relative athletic score. He didn't fully test, but he's an outstanding freakish athlete, and would not be surprised if they selected Shamar Stewart. But due to his lack of production in college for really a number of years, I hope that that's not the selection. I'd be okay with it if it was, but that's
Yeah.
not my first choice.
Yeah, next up, Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas, the tackle. He does have some positional versatility too, so he can swing in and play guard as well. He's one of my favorites on here too as well. This type of pick to me, we would be, assuming that he could play, or Jordan Morgan is playing right guard. So if you did want to play him left tackle for Rasheed Walker, replacement for Rasheed Walker, excuse me. I think he'd be really good. I think he's a stud. I think he's a stud left tackle, as a premium position. So I'd be very excited if we got Calvin Banks Jr.
Yeah, me too. And if you listen to our mock draft from yesterday, that was our selection. So we'll see if that comes to be. Kenneth Grant from Michigan. He's an outstanding nose tackle, but has 3-tech versatility, in my opinion. But he would immediately solidify this run defense. He would bring extra pass rush juice over what we've had on the interior. A big, strong, imposing man, and there's not many people that can move that way. His RAS is a shade under 8, it's like in the 7s, but so was Kenny Clark's when he was drafted. But when you're talking about a nose tackle, the man can move and he can do a lot. He's been one of my favorite prospects for the Packers since very early on, and still remains that way after all of the information that we now have. Would be really thrilled with Kenneth Grant, a defensive tackle from Michigan, if he was the Packers selection.
Yeah, not much to say, at least from my end. You all know how I feel about him, so I'll just echo all the things that Jordan said and probably talk about him a little bit later.
Yeah.
So next up, Derek Harmon out of Oregon, a defensive tackle, probably more in your 3-tech, although at least when they were playing Wisconsin, they were moving him all over the line. So he definitely has a ton of positional versatility. If I'm not mistaken, I believe I saw him playing nose, or at least a shade off the guard or the center. But I would absolutely be ecstatic if we got Derek Harmon here too as well. I think he would fit in beautifully. It would be a good Kenny Clark replacement. So for us, and if they're sticking and picking, I have seen some trade backs too as well. Being able to trade back, at least in the mock drafts. Well, you never know. That's a fake simulation. It's not real life. And still being able to pick up Derek Harmon, in the feast. So if that were the case and you could pick up another pick or two, I would absolutely love that.
Last defensive tackle on this list, obviously position they're interested in. Walter Nolan was in for a top 30. I think he's definitely a 3-tech and more of a 3-tech and less of a true nose tackle, but somebody in that mold too, that can fit that Kenny Clark role. For a lot of the same reasons you like Derek Harmon, you like Walter Nolan. I think my preference would be Derek Harmon or Kenneth Grant first, but would also be very happy with Walter Nolan as a selection for the Packers, especially in a trade down scenario, trade down to pick 30. Take Walter Nolan, address other positions after that. I could be very on board with that plan. So
yeah, another stud Ohio State wide receiver. Let me know when that ever does not become a thing. But Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. Very good, very polished. A lot of people are saying that he might be better than JSN or Jackson Smith-Njigba, who was drafted by the Seahawks, and that was obviously another one Packers draft crush for us. But what can we say about him? He's got the size to play outside. He definitely can play outside. I wouldn't call him a prototypical X. He's definitely more suited on the inside. They were doing some unique things with him at Ohio State. He is a he can catch the ball really good. He's got good side to side movement. He's got pretty good speed too as well. So a little redundant for what we have for our room, but the other thing, the major pro that I'll put in with him here is he puts all his life and more into run blocking. And that's something that Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst are absolutely going to love. I even had him on some tapes for him coming inside the line and blocking some players coming off the edge. So I absolutely love Emeka Egbuka. I would be shocked if they took him in the first round.
Yeah, if you think that he can truthfully play outside in a world where him and Jaden Reed are on the field at the same time, then that would be an outstanding selection for the Packers. And the Packers will know if that's what they'd like to do. Nick Scorton from Texas A&M. He's an edge prospect that not only Rob and I like, but a lot of other, Packers podcasters and predictors. but he's everything they're looking for in a prototypical edge: the size, the speed. He's got a little bit of a weird body shape, but he is the athlete they're looking for. I think he's got pretty decent production. I would be happy with Nick Scorton as a draft selection, especially again in a trade back scenario. If they traded back to the back of the first or even into the second round and we're able to find a way to get Nick Scorton. But I would be totally satisfied if they stuck and picked him at pick 23.
Yeah. So next up for us, and somebody we have taken in some of our mock drafts, and somebody that Jordan and I really, really love. And a lot of this too depends on what happens with Jair Alexander as well. So there's that caveat. But Trey Amos, the cornerback out of Ole Miss, really, really good. He does have really good size for the NFL. He has great coverage instincts. He's got good long arms, great strength to rip off, some blocks. Some cons. His top speed won't wow you, but for what he's trying to do and how he'd fit in for the Packers, and being that outside person, he probably could play inside, but you're more drafting him to play outside, and something that I do think that this team needs. I know Hafley doesn't like to say outside versus inside. He likes to have positional versatility so that you can play both. So I totally understand that. I think he could play inside. I think he does have the side to side speed to do that, but good blend of size, movement, skills, coverage, athleticism, and I would absolutely love, 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 love Trey Amos if they stuck him pick at 23.
Agree with all of that. And we got a lot of guys that have versatility in that corner room right now, but not a lot of guys that I think can truthfully play on the outside. So I'll touch on that a little bit more in a minute, perhaps. But Rob, what is, out of those 11 guys, what is your prediction? If you had look into a crystal ball and, who the Packers are going to select, what's your final prediction for the Packers' first round selection? Again, whether that comes at, pick 23 or somewhere else, who do you want the Packers to take and why?
So this is both my head and my heart. We've drummed this, all off season. We've talked about him ad nauseum, but Kenneth Grant just makes too much darn sense for the Packers. Losing TJ Slayton, bringing a real true, again, nose tackle, but a nose tackle with a lot of upside as a pass rusher too. Like Jordan was saying earlier, he could play a little 3-tech, so you can move him around. He fits in so well with your Kenny Clarks, your Colby Woodens, your other defensive line guys for the Packers. And really, like what I was seeing, from the Eagles, and this just goes down to traditional football, but building up your defensive line and your offensive line, right? Building inside to out. I really just feel like if we can get some movement on the inside, he can take on double teams really well. Not only that, got some positional versatility. I would think that Kenneth Grant, if he falls, some other people might fall in love with him. He is the best in my opinion, best nose tackle, 0-1 tech in this draft, and would come in and make an immediate impact for the Packers in this defensive line. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I love it. Let's run that card to the table for sure. And we've given a couple other comparisons, but I mean, I think he could be like Warren Sapp in this defense.
Yeah.
And, insert Warren Sapp into the Packers defense, and exactly. All right, we're getting a little corny, but it's early, we're recording this and we're excited. So my pick, Trey Amos, and we talked about him a minute ago. I've come to this conclusion with the corners. If we want a corner, there's only about 3 or 4 guys that are truthfully like green tier players. And I think if the Packers wait until pick 54, when they have that next selection, that all those guys, the likes of Trey Amos and Siobhan Rebel and probably AZ Thomas will be gone. Maybe AZ Thomas will fall there, but if they want to for sure secure a cornerback, a starting cornerback, a guy who could be a cornerback one of the future, I think that they need to select Trey Amos in the first round. He can be that true outside guy that we just talked about, and he's one of the only true green tier fits for the Packers across the board that doesn't have injury history, that's played at a high level, who has production. I just think that makes sense to me. You could draft Trey Amos in the first round, and you could still add, pass rush or edge or whatever, defensive interior in round 2, wide receiver, tackle, on day 3. Wide receiver, tackle on day 2 as well. I think it gives you the best blueprint to add the players you need and not run out of a corner if that's something you really value at this point in time. So just quick recap on our draft week schedule tomorrow. We've got our 1-year anniversary show and day 1 recap, day 2 preview coming out. Saturday, we'll get back on here. We'll have a day 2 recap and a day 3 preview. And then we'll be back on Wednesday in our regular slot to give you our overall reactions and, thoughts about what they did on day 3.
Well, yeah. So thank you so much, Packers fans, for coming back and taking a listen to us. We genuinely do appreciate it. Obviously, we do have, like Jordan was just saying, content every Wednesday and Saturday on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. This week, we're obviously going to sprinkle in some more episodes, but you can find us both on the socials. That should be below on the banner. Jordan is at Olson Jord, and I am at Sounds Gouda with 3 A's. Let us know what you think. Is there a player or two that maybe we don't have on our list that maybe you're drumming the board for? Let us know in the comments below. We love to interact and engage with you, and have been really having a blast getting to know a lot of you guys. So that's it, Packers fans. Appreciate you coming back. We hope that you have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good night. Take care. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.
Been wanted this shit forever. I've been in the field with whatever they throw at me. Brush it off, pick myself up, moving